In a recent class, there was a lively and provocative exchange between myself and a student. Following that exchange, at the end of the class, another student came up to me and said, "Sometimes you sound like a drill sergeant." I simply responded, "That's the Southwesterner in me, we're kind of direct. I didn't mean to be difficult. I just meant to try to draw out the discussion and make sure we were in the right place." Now, I tell that story by way of indicating that it might take some students a little while to, how should we say, warm up to me. And there are some who never warm up to me. Last fall, I was sitting with Mrs. Flora, and I posed to her an idea that I hoped would create a synergy for the PA Academy, the Law and Public Safety Academy, and what I was learning about as Youthbuild. And it came to me that, as I mentioned when we started this morning, all of this activity of the high school academies and in the regular school classrooms, and certainly in Youthbuild, that's all public service. And I don't think, I said, that everybody clearly understands what public service is and how important it is. So we embarked on a plan to build a presentation around one of the academies, and this one is going to be from Tolman today, and the IVCAP Youthbuild group. Now, I wasn't able to meet with any of those folks in either of those two groups until the latter part of March. And we met on the Bristol campus, and Mrs. Flora and I did a little icebreaker skit where she played Janie in the Hood, and I was Dr. Stein. Now, that was by way of trying to get you folks to warm up to me a little quicker than the drill sergeant role apparently I sometimes play. And I must say that it was a quickly warming up session, because by the end of that 1 hour, and that's all of the time we had, these young people were on board with what I was asking them to do. And they really took the task that I set for them and really ran with it. And I was privileged to be able to go back last week and just sort of check in and see where everybody was. And they were right on. And I'm excited to be able to show you their work this morning. What I asked them to do, after demonstrating to them what public service messages look like and were, what their contents were, I asked them to start developing public service messages about the academy they were in or the Youthbuild program they were in. Now, that's the first time they ever heard of such an assignment. When they walked into the school classroom in the beginning of the year, even in the winter semester, etc., they had no idea that they were going to be put in this position. The Youthbuild folks were coming in to do building projects, and the next thing you know, they're having to go to the library, and they're working in the library, and they're listening to me. Now, I've told them, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. Do not get on the bus, and don't come to Bristol if you don't want to do it, but I will feed you if you come. Which apparently was the big draw. So, what I asked these students to do was develop tweets, because that's one of the social media messages, delivery media we have today. As our own Ms. Harb mentioned earlier, she tweets and uses Twitter. It is a very common social media kind of message, although it has to be brief. So what they had to do was distill the importance of what it is they were doing into 140 characters. By golly, they did. I also asked them to develop a hypothetical 30-second radio spot, as if they were going on the radio to tell the community through a broadcast medium what Youthbuild the Law and Public Safety Academy, what their value was, what they were doing as public service. And then I asked them to develop a script for a video. I told them they were free to ignore what Mrs. Flora and I had done, even though I thought it was very good. Except for the parts Mrs. Flora took out that I wrote, but I digress. The idea is that once these videos are made, we're going to post them on the BibCap webpage as a YouTube video so that others can see. And I invite you May 29 to log on to the BibCap website where you can see their handiwork. And for the Youthbuild group, there is a nationwide contest for the best Youthbuild video. And we want this video to go into competition, and it's worth $500. Plus, they get to put it on their resume. Now, part of what you're going to see today is not only the importance of public service and the kinds of themes that Ms. Harp was developing with us earlier this morning about ethics and the importance of being valuable to the public, but also the hard work of these young people who've done some really good thinking in a very short period of time. So what I asked them to do is we divided them into teams, so that Youthbuild was a team and the Coleman Academy was a team. And then I said, I want you to appoint 2 captains. So on my right are the captains for the Tolman Academy, and joining us soon will be the captains for the Youthbuild group on my left. And then I will let them introduce themselves to you, and they will share with you what it is they've done and some of the message content that they've created. So ladies and gentlemen, it's yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rebecca and this is Crystal. We are seniors at Tolman High School. We are part of the legal program, which stands for Legal Law Enforcement Career Applications. Our presentation will be explaining the values of the internship program for law.
The benefits of having an internship are getting networking skills and preparing you for future experiences, interpersonal interaction, and it is good transition to a job, and it also helps you decide if this is the right job for you. It gives you a chance to use the skills you learned in the classroom and gain confidence in the job that you want to do.
The process of having an internship, you have to go through learning how to make resumes, go through internships, gain the challenges and how to overcome them, such as being able to balance your own time and reestablishing our priorities.
What my internship taught me about public service. What happens behind the scenes of a job, what we do in our internships, like if we file at the courthouse or if we work in security, how we have to go through the process and steps that we use and how the jobs work.
Our internship class teaches us to get ready for the world of work, such as responsibilities, time management, dedication, what to expect, and the career you want to pursue. How we all have grown in this experience, we learn to communication skills, networking, responsibilities, getting ready for future job experiences, and gain awareness of career options in the field of law and government.
The values that we have learned are networking, career options, interpersonal skills, responsibility, and time management. And in our program, we have learned high school education, communication, diversity, our internship, learning experience, and field experiences.
These are pictures we took on field trips that we have taken as a class. We went to the state courthouse, the district court. We also been to the prison. Sorry. And we have also went to City Hall and introduced them and what their job is in the internship.
Michelle Pelletier.
I'm Michelle, and my internship is with Crystal and Becky at the Rhode Island Superior Courthouse. And most of the time we watch trials, so we get familiar with everything that goes on in the trials. And that's it.
Matt Souza.
Hi, Matt Souza. My internship at the State House, and I do like Captain Police, and I help them with security. I shadow them also, so I learn lots of law enforcement.
Anna and Andrew.
We worked at the Mosquito office and we got to work with DUI cases, domestic violence cases. Yeah, pretty much.
Brianna Roulier.
I'm Brianna, and I worked with the City Hall of Pawtucket, and I learned about family medical leave and that.
Wendy and Miranda.
My name is Miranda, and we worked at the 6th Division District Court. And what we did was we listened to the public and filing the civil and civil claims, including new cases, some motions, numerous court documents.
Can't hear you, sorry. I can't hear.
Yeah, well, we just we help file, we help the clerks, we help the judge in the courtroom, and we process the mail, we help the calendar, and we issue the documents to the first judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We need a captain from the Youthbuild group.
Okay, thank you guys for all being here. What we're going to show you guys is what Youthbuild is all about, and we hope you guys enjoy our presentation. This is our logo. We have through VidCat. Myself, my name is Derek. This is Giorgio. Jose Barbosa.
Rebecca DOSC.
Kay Smith. Rosales.
My name is Sydney Hernandez.
We do have one missing. He's unable to attend today. But we'll get started. So VidCap is a place for 18 to 24-year-olds to come and get your GED or get advancement in order to transition into college. You can be 18 to 24. This particular one applies to Pawtucket and Central Falls residents only. If you have a Providence one, that does Providence as well. and all throughout the nation they have different youth builds.
With the BivCap Youthbuild program, a lot of us are able to go to this program and get certified in construction. With that comes other certifications as far as OSHA. You learn at NCCR, which is the construction classroom itself. We learn construction math, and we're building single-family homes for low-income, affordable housing for families.
These are pictures of some of the students that we have at BivCap, getting tools in the classroom. Down at the bottom right-hand corner, we have Giorgio measuring out some things, just, trying to get a feel for what we'll be doing in the actual field. This is my personal favorite, water fire. I enjoy this every year. If you haven't been, I definitely suggest you go. It's definitely a sight to take in. As BivCap, we'll be volunteering with them this summer. We'll be helping with the lighting of the fires in the water, and just kind of giving, handing out pamphlets and just kind of helping people understand what water fire is all about.
Here we have Cpr First Aid Training. Through this course, we do gain certain certifications, and we did get our Cpr First Aid Training certification. So that's something that is useful in any type of field. So.
This is us in the classroom. We have one of the teachers there who's with us today, Ms. Christine Stone, helping out Becky, some of her work, some of specifically. Top right-hand corner, we have a team building exercise. We placed a ball, and we had a designated hole in which we were to put the ball through. In this bottom left hand, we just have her going over some things. Everybody just trying to take in what she's saying, paying attention. And in the bottom, just have kids at work on themselves.
What is public service to Youthbuild, to BivCap Youthbuild? It's making our communities better, mentoring the youth, bettering our neighborhoods, building affordable housing, gaining new skills to better our lives so we can continue to give back.
When we first learned about it, like Dr. Ho previously said, sometime mid-March, we didn't have much knowledge of what was expected of us. But through the hour session that he had us in the computer lab, we got a good concept of what was asked, and after the good lunch that was provided, we went back to our communities and got to work on the projects that we are presenting to you today, and also on May 29th.
Using social media to promote public service awareness. Like he said before, we develop messages through Twitter, Facebook, the YouTube video, Instagram, blog spots, just getting the message out there to a broader audience and making sure people get the social media message, public service.
These are excerpts that we have from our Twitter account at BivCap Youthbuild. It just gives an idea of what you'll be doing as far as public service is concerned. Like I said, water fire. We also will be building low-income homes for single families, low-income. And public service is just basically helping out when no one else will. Just trying to better the community. Not many people do that now. You can't go next door and get a cup of milk from your neighbor. And just trying to change the world through construction, giving back, and togetherness.
Then we have Facebook messages as well. messages that we just kind of put out there to get the message to the young adults and to give them an overview of the program and see how you can change your life and better the community and you can get back. So.
This Friday we'll be doing an Earth Day cleanup project, planting plants, picking up trash in the park across the street from where we hold our classroom. That's 2 days from now, and I look forward to that. I'll be there.
And here we have the mentors as well. In the left corner we have one of our case managers, Charles, and one of our teachers, Ronnie. And then we have Ronnie helping out a couple students, just showing how everything goes in the classroom, and how we all work together to achieve our goals. And our mentors and our teachers are a big part of this. And from day one, they've always had the faith and instilled it in us. And they're showing us a lot to get where we want to be.
What we've gained from public service, using social media as a way to promote and let out awareness of what we're trying to do and trying to gather more. So I feel as the more you have, the better you're able to do, the more you're able to do. Networking, meeting different people, from the bottom of the totem pole all the way up to the top. I feel everyone is an asset if used correctly. It makes us feel good, and myself, I enjoy helping others and learning experiences, learning new things throughout your life. That's what life's all about, is learning new experiences and gaining from them. And that is our presentation. I would like to have Ms. Jane, Dr. Hall, and Mr. Connolly come up here, please. As is customary, we would like to give our own gifts.
First one. Dr. Hall's got to have one, so.
As it turns out, Ms. Harp and I attend the same gym, so look for me in this. Questions, please. Ms. Policastro,
Yes.
you're part of the Brain Trust on this.
I am.
Are you as amazed as I about how far they came in such a very short time?
I am. It was a very, very quick turnaround. I mean, these kids were recruited, entered into the program, and really were not accepted until April 1. So in a month, they've done a lot. They've come a long way, very quickly. Which is good for this 10 months of their involvement with our program.
And Mr. Souza,
Yes.
you must be as proud as I am of your Tolman folks.
I am.
They didn't have a clue either, right?
Correct.
They even got,
Yeah,
through various communications problems, they didn't actually get the word until only a few days before the March meeting.
Before?
Yeah,
Last week of March.
last week, right, and that's essentially when we met. So
Yeah.
they came a very, very long way in a very short period of time. I'm also, can you take me back one of the tweet slides, please? I was particularly struck by this one. Public service is helping out when nobody else will, and I think that fits in with part of Ms. Hart's presentation this morning about the muckraker, the original meaning of muckraker, and the issue of wealth overcoming the poor folks. I think we are all enriched today because of what the people here have done. Now, wasn't there a Youthbuild chant you were going to give us?
Absolutely not.
No. Everybody. You don't have it?
I'll do it.
You know by heart?
I know by heart.
That's right, Becky.
Let's do it.
Becky's not my favorite.
Anybody know it with me?
No, by heart, come on.
Sure they
Anybody know
will.
it with me?
Introducing Rebecca Diorsi.
Come on. Yeah, come on.
Anybody else know it with me? Like, we are Youthbuild. We are here to make a difference, to be a positive influence on our community, to inspire each other to further our education and pursue our careers, with full determination to succeed and overcome any obstacles we believe. There is dignity in labor. Through struggles we learn to cope. We have the power to approve excellence. Nothing is hard, everything's a challenge. Together united, we are youth. We are Youthbuild.
Thank you very much. Yes, you did. Good job. Way to go. Now, it is my task for us to get the Tolman video downloaded so we can see that as soon as possible, because I got to see it.
It's not that exciting.
Now,
Just a little preview. It's not the-
previews are fine. That's exactly right, just like a trailer in a film. All right, we have a very important activity to perform now. As I mentioned to Ms. Harp this morning, the American Society for Public Administration is the heir to the progressive tradition to which she referred during the course of her talk. And so we in Rhode Island have the privilege of having the only PA academy and law and public service academies that have ASPA certification. And we are the only chapter in the United States which has students from the academies as members of ASPA. So you are to be congratulated for your achievements. Now, I'm going to ask Dr. Condrey if he'd come forward, please. And Mr. Conley will read the names of the inductees, and Dr. Condrey will deliver the induction documents. Also, Senator Reed, Jack Reed, the senior senator from the state of Rhode Island, is visiting this campus, well, the main campus at Bristol this day, and we invited him to be here, but his schedule wouldn't allow him. Nonetheless, he has sent a member of staff, Mrs. Wendy Del Carmen. Mrs. Del Carmen is finishing her MPA, by the way, and will be making a presentation herself next week. It will not be accompanied by a dance or a chant, although I'm quite sure she's capable of both. But Senator Reed has sent along his thank you for your hard work, and Mrs. Del Carmen has those citations. So, Mr. Conley?
Dr. Hall knows this is a mistake to give me the microphone. He was dreading this. Listen, I want to call off the names of the Tolman High School Law and Enforcement Academy first, and tell you that most of the people from Shea High School aren't here, and I'll tell you why. They came back from China yesterday, where this is where they did most of their work, and they had a grueling 2 weeks there, and they participated in an international festival there over that time period. Well, what happens is during that time they missed a test, some kind of state test that they were supposed to take, so they're being forced to take it today. So we're kind of between a rock and a hard place, and you know, I lost. But we're gonna recognize them also and make sure they get their certificates, etc. But from Tolman High School, Kelly Cano, who I understand is in the same boat at Tolman. And then we have Rebecca, who did a nice job here. Rebecca Chavarria. Come on up. Back to camera. Okay. And then Miranda Chavarria. Anna Espinal. Wendy Ramirez. The lovely Crystal Ritchie. Brianna Roulier. Andrew Soares. And Matthew Souza.
Move the mouse so that background changes in there. Just move the little mouse.
Was that all?
Wait a minute.
Just recognize the shade, though they're not here.
Mr. Conley?
Did I mention that? No one actually did that? You did it, Michelle. Yeah, I'm going to mention it. Okay. The Shea High School students I want to recognize Arami Baker, Allison Cohen, Kate Forts, Diana Guzman, Alexandra Medeiros, Claudia Morris, Stacy Rosario, Elvis Nobre, Seth Larby, who, by the way, was named by the Secretary of State as the Citizen of the Year student, Kaiser Rivera, Joel Almeida, Haley Ann Knight, and Brian Lehman. Now, all these young people do such a terrific job, and you can see for yourself the kind of things that they're capable of. I know also here today from Roger Williams, we have a number of MPA students. These guys are on your tail, so do a good job. The academies in Pawtucket are kind of one-of-a-kind kind of deals. They've received a lot of national recognition. They do a lot of national projects and whatever, and people are very aware of what happens between Roger Williams and the city of Pawtucket. Without Dr. Hall, this all wouldn't happen, or Mr. Pasquarella, or the college itself. I just warn the people out there that these young people are capable of just about anything. And they do, and they don't cease to amaze me, and today was another indication of the kind of things that they can do. So give yourselves a hand again, and thank you very much.
Mr. Conley is correct. I expect to see you all in my MPA classes in the very near future. Only the strong survive.
Yes.
Right, Sergeant Duncan?
Yes.
As I mentioned now twice, there are many people involved in the behind the scenes of this whole project all year long, and I just want to make sure that we are naming the right names. Mrs. Flora, of course, Mr. Connolly, Mr. Souza, Mr. Casca, Mr. Pasquarella, and certainly the Dean of the School of Criminal Justice and the Associate Dean of Criminal Justice that houses our program. Without their support, we're bereft. We don't have a lot. So I appreciate the support of all those folks. Now, we have one more panel before lunch, and I've asked Dr. Condrey to be part of this panel. I've asked Dr. Morris to be part of that panel. And joining us also is the leader of the Latino Institute at Roger Williams University, Ms. Kenna Morales, which, there she is. Have I left anybody out? Did I get everybody? I've asked them to talk to us sort of in a summary fashion this morning about the importance of public service and the importance of the ethics of public service. And as Ms. Hart was mentioning this morning about codes of ethics, ASPA has one too. And so we believe in doing the right thing. And I believe this morning that we've seen some of our young folks here, all of our young folks here, striving to do the right thing. Now, what I'm asking Dr. Condrey, Dr. Morris, and Ms. Kenna Morales to talk about is their experience in public service, and a combination of their experience, I think, should be informative for us about how important it is to perform well in public service, that the career of public service is a worthy profession, signified by the fact that there is an ASPA, as well as some other features. But importantly, I want you to hear from them, and as you can see, as you will see, the panel has diversity. And so the people that are on it will probably be able to tell you, briefly at least, some of the struggles that they face trying to get where they are. And so what you've been learning today and some of what we've been doing today is in fact the first step of many to come. And what I want you to see is how it can end up for a positive good, both on an individual level and a community level. So Dr. Morris, Dr. Condrey, and Ms. Kenna Morales, would you join us here in front? You can have a chair here. How would that be? There's a microphone. Mr. Auger, this microphone is turned on? Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's our public service and ethics summary panel.
Dr. Hall, how do you want us to proceed?
Why don't you begin, Dr. Condrey, with a little bit about ASPA?
Make sure I get included.
Well, first let me say thank you so much for being here, being a part of this program. I came here last year and really enjoyed it. And I was very pleased that Dr. Hall and Jane Flora asked me to come back. Let's give both of them a hand. I think that's very appropriate. Jane does a great job. Mr. Connolly does a great job. All the teachers do. I think this is a model program for the country. And as ASPA president, I want to get you some publicity. I'd like to see this replicated across the country. I think that what you're doing is very important. And what I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit about my goals for ASPA. And to me, ASPA has been the most important organization that I've belonged to. I've been a member since 1978. You can do the math. I was in graduate school. And it has helped me build relationships, learn new things constantly, network with others, and I'm glad to see that you all are doing that as master students and even as high school students. So here are my goals for this year, being ASPA president. I'm traveling about 3 months out of the year. It'd be great for 4 years, but I've got to do it all in 1 year. And so I want to focus on membership. I want to energize younger members, such as yourself. I want to focus on chapters and sections. Continue our policy engagement functions. We're going to celebrate our 75th anniversary this year and we'll hold our conference in Washington, D.C. in March. We have 9,000 members from 80 different countries. So very, very diverse organization. And I think one thing that we can do as ASPA members is speak for the value of public service. We're celebrating our 75th anniversary, and I think we saw during the last couple of weeks of the Boston bombings, these are public servants that came to the rescue. We rely on public servants. And I'm so happy that you all are involved in public service. We're trying to build our chapters and sections to work with them to build our programs. Rhode Island has done an excellent job. I'd like to see this program that you're doing here replicated across the country. And ASPA's leadership comes from our chapters and sections. And we have opportunities for student leaders. I'd like to see you all involved to explore that as well. We're trying to continue our policy engagement process. We've been working with the National Academy of Public Administration, trying to build some positive links with policymakers to let them know that we are a good source of nonpartisan advice. And also with that, to build a coalition of like-minded public service organizations, again, to raise the level of public service in the country. I'd like to invite you to come to Washington March 14th through 18th at the Mayflower Hotel. And our conference theme is celebrating the successes and promoting the future of public service. And Mr. Conley, raise your hand. Mr. Conley's gone.
I'll raise it for him.
Okay. We had a discussion last night over dinner that I would love to have a panel about this program at the conference. And want to invite, hopefully, a group of you to come to Washington. We have a Founders Forum program that will actually pay for the registration. We're trying to have 75 Founders Forum participants. So hopefully some of the people in this room will come to DC and participate in that panel. I think at the MPA level and also at the high school level, maybe the people that are coming through this program next year can be a part of that. So here's some advice to you. And I mean, I think you can, to me, as I said, ASPA has been very important to me. Continue your involvement with ASPA. You already have some fine mentors. I had dinner with Christine Stone last night, Mike Conley, Ed, who's not here. These are great people to work with. My mentor, Dr. Jack Hamilton, has been my mentor since I was about 20 years old. I've kept up with Jack. You can tell I have white hair now. Actually had some hair when I first met Jack. But he's been very, very important to me. So hold on to these mentors. And also, try to mentor others. You're in a position that you've done a lot already with your young lives, that you can give that back to your colleagues in class, and in the future that you can seek out people that you can help mentor. I guess words of advice. If someone asks you to do something, you think it's a good opportunity, say yes. You never know where that's going to lead. Saying yes to one thing may lead to a job and then lead to a better job. And always say yes if you think it's a good thing. Also, be a peacemaker. If people are in conflict, you're a public servant, try to be the one that's reasonable and helps people come together, because we're all working toward the public good. Continue learning throughout your community. I was very impressed with the presentations. And I think that was one of the things. You're continuously learning and giving back to your community. You're already doing that. And always act ethic. You don't need 500 pages of rules to act ethic. You know what basically is right and wrong. And always try to do what's right and serve the public good. So that's my advice to you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Good morning. My name is Ana Cano Morales, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I actually don't have a PowerPoint presentation like the previous speaker did, I didn't know I was speaking until I was driving over here, and my niece, who's Adriana Dawson, she's in the program, her bio is in the program, is sick with the flu, and called me and said, because it's Rhode Island and she's my niece and she was speaking here, and said, I'm not going to be able to make it. Could you please tell Miss Flora, and by the way, could you stand in for me? And so I said, sure. So I don't have a pretty presentation for you. All I have is really myself. And hopefully my example, if you deem it to be, will be an example that you will take with you. I am a Rhode Islander, and I come from Central Falls. I'm very proud to say that I come from Central Falls. My father was the first Colombian to come to Central Falls in 1963, Pedro Cano. And Pedro Cano, my father, passed away last year at age 92. And one of the most beautiful lessons as a father he could have given to me was showing me the difference between right and wrong, speaking to ethics, doing the right thing, and giving back to my community. And so there's a saying, un dicho in Spanish, that is, hoy por ti, mañana por mí, which means today I'm doing something for you, but tomorrow you may be doing something for me. And so always say something, always do something when you're asked to, as long as it's the right thing. So public service, very broad and general category. What is it? Yes, absolutely, they are the first responders when we have a crisis. They are the firemen, they're the builders, they're people who are certainly risking their lives every day in order to protect us and to help us. But there are also people who volunteer, ordinary citizens who volunteer every day to ensure that our communities are strong communities and are healthy communities. And I'm not at all a heroic person, but I have in the past 6 or 7 years been involved very heavily in public education. I'm the chairwoman of the Central Falls School Board. And at the same time as being the chairwoman of the Central Falls School Board for 3 years, between 2007 and 2010, I was also on the Board of Regents, Rhode Island Board of Regents for elementary and secondary education. Now I tell you that not to brag, because really it's nothing to brag about, but to point two things out to you, because I'm looking out and I'm seeing the reflection of me. You are me 20 years ago. I was scared to death to speak publicly. I'm not anymore, because I've pushed myself, because I've had great mentors, because I've exposed myself to others, because I've been studious, because I've learned a thing or two every day, because I've asked questions. And some people may think they're the dumb questions, but I think they're the right questions of my community and of Rhode Island. And so when we're here and we find ourselves the 2 points, I'm sorry. The 2 points that I wanted to make about why I'm telling you about my education public service. I get a phone call from a Harvard education professor when I was first appointed on the Board of Regents. And, you know, Harvard School of Ed, why would they be calling me? I did not go to an Ivy League school. I went to URI through the Talent Development Program. I did my graduate studies at Rhode Island College. I'm a local kid. And this Harvard professor said, congratulations, Ms. Morales. You've just made history. I was very surprised by what he was saying. And he said, well, I've done some checking around, and you are the only Latina on the Eastern Seaboard on a state board of education. Wow. All I did was say yes. All I did was say yes to the challenge of being on a state board of education, with all of the politics that comes with being appointed and not elected. Although elected has politics as well. But that means each and every one of you hopefully will either pursue the ability to say yes to a challenge and or react to a challenge by saying yes. So either you be proactive about it and say, hey, how come there aren't minorities at this table? Hey, how come people like me or people in my community aren't being asked what we want in terms of funding or policies or laws or legislation? Because oftentimes when I served, actually every time that we had a public hearing, we really didn't see a lot of community members coming to the Board of Regents and really talking about what we were doing. We were passing state policy, and it was very controversial policy. It remains so today. The other reason why I tell you this is because my mother has a second grade education. My father taught my mother how to read and write. So that should tell you all that it doesn't matter what zip code you were born in. It doesn't matter what your heritage is. It doesn't matter what your last name is. It doesn't matter whether or not you come from a lineage of Ivy League educators. What matters is whether or not you really want it. That's what matters. In Central Falls, we have really busted through an inferiority complex. And I say that, and I feel like I have the legitimacy to say that because I was born and raised there. An attitude of we can't, an attitude of the world is against us, an attitude of always have to be proving ourselves 3, 4, 5 times. Pawtucket's very similar. By the way, I graduated from Shea High School. Shea Raider. So, I grew up in Woodlawn. I was born in Central Falls. When I was an adolescent, we moved over to Pawtucket, and so I consider myself a Pawtucket graduate. I am a Pawtucket graduate. Shea Raider, class of '86. Very proud of it. Had great educators there. Had great mentors there. But I see more and more that our young people are not pushing themselves. Some of the adults that are around them are not pushing them hard enough. And people are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with graduation, they're overwhelmed with life, they're overwhelmed with the prospect of survival, they're overwhelmed with their future. And that's life. You either do it and change, as I was talking to an educator there from Tolman, or you don't, and you shut down. And that's the decision that you need to make. I'll close with saying this. I actually work for a living, so I don't just volunteer my time in Central Falls public schools or in the state. I work at Roger Williams University, so I'm an employee of this university. I'm a new employee of this university. I started work here in January, and I'm working in the Office of University Relations. I'm also directing the Latino Policy Institute at Roger Williams. I tell you this because I think the university has a great opportunity, and I'm directing these comments really to the faculty and the staff of Roger Williams, but they have a tremendous opportunity to reach out into the Rhode Island community and to do exactly what you're doing here this morning, but to put it on steroids. Because this room needs to be absolutely filled with people. The media needs to be here to Ms. Harp. People need to cover these things. People need to talk about them on talk radio. People need to tweet about these things. I hope you're not offended, Ms. Harp, but I actually was tweeting while you were talking because it's my way of communicating on behalf of Latino Policy Institute what I'm doing every day and communicating to other people. And so my challenge is really to all of you to act, to don't let the opportunity that comes by you to be mentored, to learn something, to get engaged, to ask the right questions. And I'm also challenging the university to put this on steroids. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm very pleased to be here again. My good friend Dr. Hall and Ms. Flora brought me here last year and the year before. And I'm still kind of the black sheep of this one. So to speak. What I wanted to talk to you about a bit was the kinds of things you can do if you go into public service. A variety of occupations you can have. And I'm sure that every one of you can be successful in whatever area of endeavor you choose. I'm not that bright, and I was able to make a living. I was first in the military, and I learned skills that I was lucky to some degree in cryptography, intelligence, and got exposed to environments I'd only read about or heard about. And I was encouraged that when I got out to go to college, because I came out of high school age 16. Waited a few months, they decided for me to go in the military. I went to college, I was involved in community activities, civil rights movement, And as I got through that, I started thinking, what could I do that would help us in terms of the community, civil rights? And I thought, go to work for the government. So I planned that I would finish college. I was at the Department of State. And I went to school during the day and worked nights. Worked in cryptography, communications, and what have you. State offered me a job when I finished. They offered me 3 jobs, foreign service officer positions. And at that time I decided I wanted to do some things to help the community, poor people, black people, females. Howard had gotten me in a bit of a problem. They threw me out of school. Said I was impeding their mission to educate. We got past that though, and the courts readmitted me. So I was able to continue my activities. I thought having a militant was a good idea. So I went to work at HUD. I worked in unsubsidized housing, then moved to subsidized housing, and got the opportunity to work in a number of areas. All the programs you can mention, I got a chance to work in, particularly in housing and community development. From there, I went to the Department of Commerce, where I worked in, I was Assistant Director for Administration, and handled all the logistical and administrative functions pertaining to the agency. From there, I went to DC government. I was appointed to head the rent control agency, and I was what they called then the rent accommodations director. We held administrative hearings on rents, evictions, anything pertaining to housing. Then I had the opportunity to go to private industry, and I worked with a for-profit organization. A lot of times you don't think about for-profits, you think about non-profits. From that one, I came back to work at the Department of Agriculture. I had 3 divisions there in different areas. From agriculture, where I retired, I went to work for a couple of non-profits. I became a city manager for 3 towns in Prince George's County: North Brentwood, Colmar Manor, Fairmount Heights. All of these things, the question is, how does somebody get involved in so many different areas? Agriculture, commerce, housing. Best thing you can do when you get a job is learn everything you can about it. Read everything that's available. Learn from everyone around you what they're doing. Learn their job as well as they can. I had probably, well, I'll acknowledge 2 distinct skills. I learned to do research. And you will have research, you've already had some in school. You will get even more in college, undergrad and graduate. The key is that you learn to find information, credible information, information that's verifiable as being true. From that, you have to develop writing skills. One of the first things that got me a break was I simply wrote a letter. They gave me this assignment, write this letter, and they wanted to organize a quick conference of model city directors. The letter was about 1.5 pages, so I wrote a draft, and they were impressed. So they gave me 3 interns to organize the event and send the letter on ahead. From then on, instead of getting little assignments, you sat in the corner and read a manual, you got assignments where you could actually do things and have an impact on what was going on in not just the community, sometimes in the world. The other thing that was something that was a good skill, and most of you are going to try your best to afford it, was math and statistics. I got an assignment to work with 2 ladies, do a project, and they were doing a statistical analysis of social consequences of public housing location. And they were using a form of statistics called Spearman rank. Key was that was to be used for groups no larger than 30. And we were gathering information from the census, data, and the groups were 400. So little dumb me, I proposed that they should change the methodology. Use our correlation instead of Spearman rank. They reported me to their supervisor and told the supervisor they wanted another intern. The supervisor said, well, let me wait a little bit. He went home, pulled out his old statistics textbook, and he found I was right and they were wrong. So we reversed our roles. I became the head of the project and they became the ones working on it. It's very important that you develop those skills, writing and math especially. Critical thinking is key. One of the reasons that people have problems thinking is kind of hard on the brain. The other thing is you don't read enough beyond what you're dealing with immediately. Marcus Tullius Cicero said, if you do not know what happened before you were born, you will forever be a boy, forever a child. If you understand that, what he's saying is if you don't know what happened before, you won't know what's going to happen later. You have no way to compare and contrast and determine how to assess a situation or a problem. Big thing is ethics. And I'll handle that in closing. I've been in the docket more times than if there's a lawyer, he has probably been in court. Key to ethics is to do the right thing when nobody's looking. Everybody thinks nobody sees me, I'll get away with it. It's not going to happen. Somebody's going to see. The person that sees you is you. And you know better. You have to develop a set of principles by which you're going to conduct your life. Once you've settled on those and determined this is the right thing and the right way to proceed, you must stay with them. You do not compromise. And this will get you in trouble. Learn to live with it and move on from there. Once you can do that, life will be good and you will accomplish many things. But don't let yourself be locked into one area thinking that you can't. Any job you're offered, take it. Study for that job the same way you would for a course. Become the expert. I was one of the top 5 experts in the country in rent control. In order to run that agency and do a good job, I had to learn it. I ran a social services division. I know more about poverty, drug use, public housing, family resource learning centers. I studied all of them. Heck, first of all, I lived it. Then I studied it in school. And then I got the chance to practice and run some of the programs doing it. And I didn't learn any particular skill in any particular area. You must become a generalist. You must read beyond your field right now. And you must learn everything you can and then apply it. The only way that you will ever accomplish anything is that you have to work at it. If you make a mistake, do it again. Learn from the mistake and move on. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm proud of all of you. I have a number of proteges, and I see them in you. And my proteges do very well. I've got 3 young ladies that graduated from college with 4.0 cumulative averages, and they're going on to grad school. I'm looking for you to do the same thing. Thank you.
After hearing these remarks, you can see why I asked them to speak with us today. several important things here just in summary, then I'm going to ask for questions. I believe I said to the March meeting of the Youthbuild and the Academy group that luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. You're looking at it. When these things happened to them, they didn't know what was going to happen, but they were ready to learn and they were ready to take advantage. Number two, choosing a mentor, the right mentor. And that takes good judgment. I am fortunate to be in the same room with my mentor. Without him, I'm not standing. Dr. Reinhardt? He's become a friend of over 30 plus years.
Try 40.
That's why I said 30 plus. But when we started out together, we didn't know where we were going to be. We were just going to take advantage of opportunities and learn. He taught me one of the most important lessons that Dr. Morris has reinforced here: learn, learn, learn. Do we have questions for our panel? Ms. Cano Morales, I'm going to ask you to go first on this question, but we've heard twice at least today, ethics is doing the right thing. Can you tell us of a time when you faced an important ethics challenge and what you did?
Oh, God. So, is there any journalists in the room?
There is.
This is off the record. Sorry. I can talk to you later though, Ms. Ronald. So I told you all that I was on the Board of Regents, right? I'm not on the Board of Regents anymore. I was not reappointed by the current governor, Governor Lincoln Chafee. I don't know if you all remember, but Central Falls had quite a volatile year in 2007. And all of the teachers at the high school were fired. There are 5 stories to that infamous day, and only one was the one that led the headlines, which was bad school board, bad superintendent, bad people. Why are you firing the teachers? There's always retribution because of when you do something like that, right? So you don't just act. I mean, there's huge responsibility that comes with being a leader. There's a huge responsibility that comes with acting, and when you're acting on behalf of children with integrity. And so, you know, you ruffle feathers, you hurt people, you don't intend to do that, but when you disrupt the status quo, people get very uncomfortable. And there are special interests that get very, very uncomfortable because I don't know if you're aware of the composition of the school board of Central Falls, but they're all minorities. I reconstituted that board. I was given the authority by the Rhode Island Department of Education to appoint new school board members when I became chair. And so they're all minorities. To this day, they are all minorities. They reflect the community of Central Falls. And so the natives took over. I'm using that, term very loosely, and that was not cool. That was not cool. The ethical question or ethical dilemma that I had to ponder was, whether or not I wanted to remain on the Board of Regents. These are appointed positions. These are very powerful positions. I was the only person of color on the Board of Regents at the time. The only person of color on the Board of Regents at the time. The only person under the age of 40, by the way, and that ever had an immigrant experience. And Dr. Gallo, Fran Gallo, who's the superintendent of schools at the time, and still is, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Gallo, it would have been very easy for me to make the decision to not renew Dr. Gallo's contract in Central Falls. And that would have been looked upon very favorably by the incoming Chafee administration. And I might have been reappointed to the Board of Regents. But that would have been an unethical thing for me to do. because Dr. Gallo had done nothing wrong. And I was not going to sacrifice somebody who had a 39-year career in education for my political gain or for my seat on a prestigious board. So I'm being completely 100% honest with you. I don't think I've ever said this in public, ever. But that was the biggest dilemma that I've had to, in my adult life, had to deal with.
And despite the late substitution, Ms. Cano Morales hit the nail right on the head with that story. That's the kind of thing we need to hear. Now, many of you probably don't know that our own Dr. Morris was very active in the civil rights movement. The reason that people can vote today in many parts of the country are due to what Dr. Morris and his civil rights colleagues did. Dr. Morris was spit on. He was called vile and vicious names. Things were thrown at him. So if there was anyone who could claim retribution, it would be Archie Morris. Dr. Morris, despite all of that, were there any ethical dilemmas you faced during that period of your life?
I don't know that I ever thought of it in terms of ethics. It was sort of an us against them situation. But there were many times that we had involved with us, and I won't name names because some of them are quite well known. But we had people working with us who were white. And the black people we were deciding at the time, we went to the black power things. We weren't going to have any whites with us. And as a consequence of that, there were certain ones of us that were undermining people who were willing to work and help us. And one of the things that I did was I stood up and said that we're together. And all of us are involved in this because it affects the entire country. So in that event, I was able to have a lot of people continue participating with us. And I don't know that I made that much impact, but we didn't go to a completely separate group of people protesting. It was important that we have everyone protesting and trying to get the laws changed to benefit us. At HUD, we had a big problem in terms of the programs that were working. They were all basically headed by young Ivy League males, white males. No females, no minorities. That was a pet peeve for me, and I did protest that and argue that we should have some minorities and some females involved. I was given 5 days suspension pending termination. We went to court and we were able to prevail and stay there, but we did get the changes. And today, I mean, when we had an average grade level in HUD for minorities of something like GS 4.5, we had nobody hitting programs at the level of 14, 15, whatever. And we had a lot of sexual harassment, which had been ignored by personnel. So we were able to get those changes, but I had to leave HUD. They couldn't protect me in program.
And so, Dr. Condrey, we come to you. Your ethical chapter.
Nothing quite as dramatic as what Archie faced, thank goodness. But I will tell you, I was, and this is not to be, I know we have a journalist, so I don't think this is old news, so I don't believe it's newsworthy. But I worked as a faculty member at the University of Georgia for their Institute of Government. And we had a new lottery program, very popular. The governor at that time, Zell Miller, who again, he was later a senator. This was his program. It was a lottery program for education. So we had a $3 million grant to study that program. There was a graduate student who came to me. This was not my program, I was just a faculty member there. I had a graduate student who came to me and told me that the director of that study had ordered him to fake some of the results to make the program look better than it was. And I had the dilemma of what to tell him to do, and of course I told him not to do that under any circumstances. There was retribution taken against that person by the university, and I did encourage him to go speak to a labor attorney that I knew was very skilled, and I think that had never lost a case with the University of Oregon. And because of that, I became under scrutiny. It was my problem now, and I stood my ground. And eventually, I ended up directing that program, that study of the lottery, because I think at that point, they knew that the data would be correct and it would be honest. And what the person had been asked to do was absolutely wrong. But if it had just been in a report, it would have been inconsequential. No one would have paid too much attention to it. But because someone was so concerned to please their political masters that they thought that they would make this young person who had no tenure, who was depending on a graduate research assistantship to pay, tuition, rent, what have you, that they had all the cards. And they thought that they could influence that person to do the wrong thing, but he didn't. And I think that's a good lesson for all of you.
One of my MVA students, Sergeant Jehu Duncan, has two questions. Is it, Sergeant Duncan?
Yes, very good. And this is for Dr. Morris. I just had a question for you. I know there's been this drive to repeal some voting rights laws in some states. I just wanted to get your feel for it. How do you feel with someone who's had vast wealth of experience? And the other part of my question is the voter ID laws in a lot of the states. I know Rhode Island was one of those states that instituted voting rights laws. I just want to know how you feel in regards to that as well. Thank you.
I've been through a lot of voting drives to register voters and what have you. The big problem is we go out on a campaign to register voters and we'd be lucky if 10% of them ever voted. The big problem is not more voter rights. We have enough laws and opportunities to do it. The problem is for people to take advantage of what we've achieved and to go on and vote. As far as voter ID, you have driver's license, heck, you got to get an ID to get cigarettes or liquor. What's the problem? Like I said, I'm kind of a black sheep. I don't agree with a lot of things that unfortunately maybe I will tell you that. But in D.C., we have what they call Ward 9, which is Prince George's County, Maryland. People from Prince George's come in and vote. There's no ID, no check. I mean, you just walk in and do it. They do influence the elections in D.C., depending on your viewpoint, maybe positive or negative. But they have no reason voting, and we should have some way of stopping people who are not entitled to vote in our local elections from voting. You look at what we have in D.C. in terms of a couple council members in jail, everybody under question. Marion Barry's been my good buddy for a long time since Snake. Marion had no business going through a couple of those last two elections. He had a lot of friends in Prince George's County. We were not able to stop that.
Sorry, I relocated. Can I just follow up with that with another part of the same question? What do you think of the argument that people of color or older people don't have the ability to go to get an ID card?
Oh, vote. Everybody can get an ID card if they want one. Senior citizens in D.C. no longer have driver's licenses after they get 100, but they get ID. Whatever we aren't that dumb. We will survive in this country doing everything we're supposed to, and there's no reason to come up with some awful law. You're telling me I'm an idiot, I can't get an ID. And by the way, I'm old as dirt.
Thank you.
Well, as you might guess, Dr. Morris and I disagree on a number of areas, but we do not disagree about the fact that if you have the franchise, i.e. the ability to vote, get yourself to the polls. It's your responsibility as a citizen. It is the basis of our democracy. It's the basis of ethics. Now, I believe luncheon is served. Am I correct, Mrs. Flora? Food is here. Let's get it.